They seemed to have it all: the fame, the fortune, the screaming fans. But behind the flashing cameras and million-dollar smiles, some of Hollywood's biggest stars were living a lie. In this explosive part 2, we uncover 20 shocking new images of once beloved actors who now call a prison cell home. From jaw-dropping mugshots to the disturbing stories that put them behind bars, this is the dark underbelly of stardom you were never meant to see. Get ready, because these true tales are more twisted than any Hollywood script. Allison Mack was once the girl next door of American television, bright, beloved, and seemingly destined for lifelong stardom. From 2001 to 2011, she won hearts as Chloe Sullivan on Smallville, a whip-smart and loyal friend who became a fan favorite. For an entire generation, she was more than just a character. She was a role model, a symbol of strength and heart. With Hollywood at her feet, no one could have predicted the shocking turn her life would take. After Smallville, Mack's story took a dark and unexpected detour. She became entangled with NXIVM, a secretive organization that marketed itself as a self-help movement. But behind closed doors, it was something far more sinister. It was a cult. And Mack wasn't just a follower. She became a key figure, using her fame to lure young women into a twisted web of manipulation, control, and abuse. In 2021, the world watched in disbelief as the former TV star pled guilty to racketeering and conspiracy charges. Her sentence: 3 years in federal prison. Behind bars, the woman once adored on screen now spent her days folding laundry, collecting food trays, and staring down the consequences of her actions. At night, she poured her thoughts into a journal, clinging to scraps of motivation and trying to make sense of the wreckage. Gone was the bubbly, bright-eyed Chloe Sullivan. In her place stood a woman reshaped by regret, her once glamorous future reduced to a quiet search for redemption. In July 2023, Allison Mack walked out of prison a free woman, but the road ahead remains uncertain. Now in her early 40s, she faces a world that remembers both the promise she once held and the pain she helped cause. Her rise and fall serve as a haunting reminder that fame is no shield against bad choices, and that trust, once broken, leaves deep scars. For many who watched her journey unfold, Allison Mack is no longer just a former actress. She's a cautionary tale of influence, betrayal, and the long path to accountability. Toby Willis was once the picture of American family values. As the patriarch of the Willis clan, a musical family of 14 featured on TLC, he charmed the nation with his 12 talented children, performing heartfelt bluegrass and country tunes that celebrated tradition, faith, and unity. Their wholesome image and tight-knit bond captured hearts across the country, especially after reaching the quarterfinals of America's Got Talent in 2014. Behind the scenes, Toby was the quiet architect of their sound, a musician and producer who helped shape their musical identity while standing as a symbol of fatherly devotion. To millions, the Willis family represented everything right about America: love, music, and moral strength. But behind the curtain, a horrifying truth was festering. In 2016, the public was blindsided when Toby Willis was arrested and later convicted for a sickening crime: the sexual abuse of a minor. The very foundation of the family's clean-cut image shattered overnight. The man who once stood center stage, strumming joy into every note, was now a convicted predator, sentenced to decades behind bars. Inside prison walls, Toby's world has gone silent. Isolated from the family he once led, his wife and children have completely cut ties. No visits, no letters, no forgiveness. The joyful melodies of fiddles and banjos have been replaced by the echo of steel doors and the weight of regret. Where there was once music, now there is only silence. Where there was once meaning, now there is only shame. For many older Americans who once saw the Willis clan as the embodiment of family purity, the fall of Toby Willis serves as a painful reminder: behind the brightest smiles can hide the darkest secrets. His story has become a haunting cautionary tale of betrayal, consequence, and the irreversible cost of one man's unforgivable acts. Harvey Weinstein was once the undisputed titan of Hollywood, a kingmaker whose influence stretched from indie studios to Oscar podiums. As co-founder of Miramax and later the Weinstein Company, he helped bring to life some of the most celebrated films in modern cinema: Pulp Fiction, Shakespeare in Love, Good Will Hunting, The English Patient, Chicago, The King's Speech. The list reads like a greatest hits of Hollywood prestige. For decades, his name was synonymous with power, ambition, and golden statuettes. Behind every red carpet success story, there seemed to be Weinstein pulling the strings. But behind the scenes, beneath the glitz and glamour, a chilling truth was festering. In October 2017, as the #MeToo movement roared into the spotlight, over 80 women, some of Hollywood's most respected actresses, stepped forward with harrowing allegations of sexual harassment, assault, and intimidation. The carefully constructed empire crumbled overnight. The man once hailed as a visionary producer was unmasked as a predator who had used fear and influence to silence victims for decades. Weinstein was swiftly ousted from his own company, expelled from the academy, and arrested. By early 2020, he was convicted of multiple felony sex crimes and sentenced to 23 years in prison. It was a historic verdict, one that not only delivered long overdue justice to his victims, but also signaled a seismic shift in how society confronts the abuse of power. Today, the former mogul rots behind bars, a world away from the glittering stages he once ruled. Often seen in a wheelchair, draped in a baggy prison uniform, Weinstein is a ghost of his former self. His once commanding presence is gone, replaced by a pale, hollow figure, held in protective custody and surrounded by the silence of isolation. He once shaped the dreams of others. Now, his story has become a cautionary tale, one without glamour, without redemption. For many, especially those who witnessed his meteoric rise, his fall stands as a brutal reminder: no level of fame, wealth, or power can shield someone from the consequences of their actions when the truth finally comes to light. Ryan Grantham once stood on the brink of stardom. With a gentle presence and youthful charisma, he charmed audiences in roles like Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Riverdale, earning a reputation as one of Canada's rising talents. From red carpet flashes to the hopeful gaze of early fans, it seemed his future was paved in gold. But in March 2020, everything changed, suddenly, tragically, and irreversibly. In a horrifying act that shocked an entire nation, the 21-year-old actor fatally shot his own mother, Barbara Waite, as she sat quietly at their home piano. The image of a promising young star shattered overnight. What made the tragedy even more chilling was what came next. Authorities discovered Grantham had allegedly planned to travel with intentions of harming Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Fortunately, those plans were never carried out. Instead, the very next day, Ryan walked into a police station and confessed, dragging the gruesome truth into the national spotlight. In September 2022, Grantham pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole until at least 2036. Inside those prison walls, he is no longer the fresh-faced actor fans once admired. Now, he lives in quiet seclusion, reading, writing, and keeping to himself. Other inmates glance at him not just with curiosity, but with a quiet horror. After all, he didn't just kill, he murdered the woman who gave him life. A betrayal that feels almost beyond comprehension. To the world, Ryan Grantham didn't just lose his future that night. In many ways, he lost himself. The young man full of dreams and promise vanished, leaving behind only a shadow, haunted, hollow, and forever changed. His fall from grace serves as a harrowing reminder: behind even the brightest smiles, the darkest demons can hide. Zara Pythian once stood on the brink of stardom, a fierce force in action cinema, turning heads with her martial arts mastery and commanding presence in Doctor Strange. In an industry where strength and performance rarely go hand in hand, Zara embodied both with grace and grit. Many believed she was destined for the big leagues, a future icon in blockbuster action films. But just as her star began to rise, her entire world came crashing down. In a shocking turn of events, Zara and her husband, Victor Mark, were convicted of a harrowing crime involving a young victim. The details of the case were deeply disturbing, shaking even the most loyal of her fans. In an instant, the admiration she once commanded was replaced by disbelief and disgust. The courtroom revelations painted a grim picture: one that shattered the public's perception of the woman once celebrated for discipline and strength. Zara was sentenced to 8 years behind bars, a punishment that reflected the gravity of her actions and the lasting trauma inflicted. Gone were the days of stunt rehearsals and film sets. Behind prison walls, she's no longer the action star, just another inmate facing daily hostility. Fellow prisoners scorn her, throwing water, hurling insults, and reminding her at every turn that fame offers no protection from consequence. No level of training could shield her from the emotional warfare of life in isolation. Where there were once cameras and red carpets, now there is silence and shame. Her days are long and heavy, filled not with applause, but with regret. Zara Pythian's downfall is more than a career cut short. It's a haunting example of how quickly a life can unravel when the truth comes to light. It's a stark reminder that no amount of talent, fame, or physical strength can outrun the weight of justice. Josh Duggar was once the golden boy of conservative America, the eldest son of the Duggar clan, the face of TLC's hit show 19 Kids and Counting, and a poster child for traditional values. He spoke often and boldly about faith, morality, and wholesome family life. As a key figure at FRC Action, a division of the Family Research Council, Josh built a public image rooted in righteousness and religious devotion. For years, the Duggar family captivated viewers across the nation, admired for their unwavering faith and tightly knit lifestyle. But behind the polished smiles and Bible verses was a secret that would shatter everything. In 2015, horrifying allegations surfaced, accusations of past sexual misconduct that sent shockwaves across the country. The carefully constructed image of the perfect Christian family crumbled overnight. TLC swiftly pulled the plug on the show, and the Duggar legacy fell under a cloud of suspicion and betrayal. For many, it was hard to reconcile the boy who preached purity with the man now facing disturbing truths. Then came the final blow. In 2021, Josh was arrested on federal charges for possessing and receiving child sexual abuse material, a crime so appalling it even stunned his most devout supporters. By May 2022, he was convicted and sentenced to 12 years and 7 months in federal prison. Gone is the charismatic young man who once stood proudly beside his parents, preaching virtue. Now, he's a disgraced inmate, held in protective custody, isolated, shackled during movements, and forced to avoid the searing stares of those around him. The fall from grace couldn't be more brutal. Once seen as the ideal eldest son and moral role model, Josh Duggar now lives in shame and solitude, a haunting symbol of how public piety can conceal private depravity. His story is a chilling reminder: no amount of faith-filled rhetoric can excuse betrayal, and when the truth comes out, the consequences can echo for generations. Thanks for watching Exposed Hollywood. If this story shocked you, hit that like button, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more revealing stories that pull back the curtain on fame. Until next time, stay curious.